Hey folks, Frank Zarilla here, November 22nd, 2024. I'm doing this video in regards to MicroStrategy, right? Market closed already. We just witnessed another blow off top this week. One that we've seen before, but for some reason or another, people continue, I wouldn't say fooled, but people continue to believe that this time is different. And it all started in November, a couple of days ago on 11/20, where I tweeted this out. And I'm doing this again. I'm not even going to tell you how I played it, which, by the way, was with the inverse ETF, MSTZ. But I'm going to start with this, right? On November 20th, which is right over here, this candle right over here. Let me push it back so that way it looks a little different. I'm looking at it and I'm saying these, MicroStrategy is going somewhat parabolic, right? And we've seen this before with silver and the million and a few other stocks, right? So I tweet this, just change the name from Tesla to Mr. And can Mr. be a concern for the overall market? This is a blog that I wrote back in 2020 when Tesla was going parabolic, right? And I show examples how in the past, companies like TLRY, the wheat stock, back in 2018 went parabolic. BYND meat, with their fake meat went parabolic. And I show numerous examples how, those parabolic moves, kind of like coincided with tops in the market, in the S&P 500. Now, I don't know if that's the case now. I don't think it's the case. I think the dynamics of the market has changed. But MicroStrategy as a stock, no doubt, all right, reached that level where people just lose logic and they get delusional, right? And this is what I wrote back in 2000. This might be 2020. And I said at the time, Tesla started to move aggressively to the upside, finally had a blow off top, similar to the way silver did back in 2011. If you were back on Twitter in 2011, silver went parabolic, and all you heard were people saying silver's, talking about the Hunt brothers and how it's going to 100 and how every Apple phone needs a Bitcoin. It needs a silver in it, so it's going to go to 100, blah, blah, blah. It was a blow off top. Beyond meat, same exact thing, right? Vegetable meat, whatever it is, fake meat, it's going parabolic. This is the future. And if McDonald's wants to get into the fake meat business, it's a lot easier for them to buy an existing company than to start from scratch. You have all that nonsense. Then you had the marijuana stocks, TLRY, and the rest of them, same exact thing. Bitcoin back in 2017, when it first hit 20,000, it was, people were saying you can't lose. You got cut in half. The 3D stocks in 2014, the solar companies in 2007, the rare earth stocks, MCP, which was, I forget the name, micro something, REE, right? So the point is that the way people start to think after the stock has made a significant move, and I'm not talking about significant move over 2 years, I'm talking about in the very short term, right? They start to say they're going to change the world. This time is different. The move can go on longer, it can go on longer and stay more irrational than you can stay solvent. There are too many naysayers for this thing to continue to move up, right? And at the time with this Tesla move, as you can see here, how the stock went from roughly 350 in January of 2020 to roughly 950 a month later. We're not talking about a small cap company. At the time, the market cap of this stock here on this day was $140 billion, right? A float of 167 million shares. At the time, this is right over here, right? Right here. Ron Barron says he predicts $1 trillion in sales for Tesla within the next 10 years, right? Adam Jones, a Jonas of Morgan Stanley, said if Henry Ford and Thomas Edison made a baby, that baby would be Elon Musk. This was right over here. The next day, the stock just cratered, right? With Mr., we had a very similar situation, right? So with Mr. that day, I'm going to go through my Twitter right? November 20th. Mr. is the most traded stock in America today. It bested Tesla and Nvidia. That is crazy. It's been years since the stock has traded more than one of those two companies, right? The last one might have been GameStop, right? Wild. And then when you take the ETFs, the two-time ETFs, the MSTU came in at number 5 and MSTX came in at number 7, right? Which is outrageous. This is my son playing basketball, by the way. He's going to be a star. And then you had, what's his name? Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He comes out and he tweets a $13 million price target for Bitcoin, according to Michael Saylor. I believe that he is right. $13 million price target. Bitcoin at the time was at $90,000, right? That's like 130,000% or 13,000%. Right? It's not even like, oh, it's going to double, it's going to triple. No, 13,000%. So you start putting those two and two together, right? And when I tweeted this whole thing about, this is when you know you got something you're really cooking. When I tweeted this, people start saying, well, people said the same thing about the market in 1998. And then we ran all the way to 2000. They said the same thing back in 1920. That's when you know that you have something, that people are emotional and they're drinking the Kool-Aid, right? So as we go higher here, so now we have the unbelievable price target. We have it traded the most it's ever traded. It beats Nvidia and Tesla for the most traded in one day. That's not even including the double, triple ETFs. At this point, Bitcoin is almost at 100,000. The NAV for Mr. is like 4 times, right, what they have. So if they have $100 of Bitcoin, the NAV is 400, which doesn't make any sense at all. If you're bullish on Bitcoin, you might as well just buy Bitcoin, right? Don't forget about a couple of years ago when GBTC, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, had that tremendous premium in it, right? Where it was trading at 38 and the NAV was like 19, whatever the case was, same exact thing, right? So it got to a point where it was only a matter of time. And then once I tweeted that, once I start seeing the responses that people get so emotional, then that's when you know when you're close to actually blowing off, right? Look at the chart here. It hit 548.50 in the pre-market. Look at this, right? I was hoping for someone to tweet that Eiffel Tower here. I think Kimball Charting used to do that before, where he would put the Eiffel Tower right here, right? So what happens, right? The next day, pre-market, the stock goes to $548.50, I believe, right? It goes to 548. It's the second gap up. Oh, it's way up there. And then at the open, once it broke this low here for the most part, or even you can even say, the first thing I did was I put a 2-minute chart and I put an anchor VWAP. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Right, so the first thing I did in the morning, right, once it opened with this huge gap up, I put an anchor VWAP right over here, and it cracked it. It had a big move down, it rebound back above, down again, right over here, down again, and then after that it was over. Right, you could have bought MSTZ. Right over here, it got above the VWAP, and it respected that VWAP all the way through. So then it just cracked, and then once it started to crack, it flushed, it rebound, and it flushed again. And then once it flushes, then people start to realize, oh, okay. Maybe it doesn't make any sense to buy this stock because it went from 200 to roughly 550 in a matter of 2 weeks, right? It's trading at 4 times NAV. It's a $92 billion. It has a $92 billion market cap. And it gets to a point where it just doesn't make any sense. So now that we got the first crack, the easy money was made, right? Even if you look at MSTZ, this thing went up, I don't know, from, it was a low of 60 cents to $1 and change. So it almost doubled in a matter of 1 day, right? So the easy money on Mister has been done. It had a very nice rebound today, but guess what? It stopped exactly at this anchor high VWAP right over here. You can look at the 15-minute chart. It touched it. The entire day was grinding higher. When it finally got there, you got a false break and it just went down immediately. It tried to break again and it fell off, right? So the easy money has been made on the short side. So what happens next? I think you can take a look at some of these examples of what happens next, where what usually happens is that you might have a tremendous rebound that can reach almost back to the highs, but it doesn't break the highs, and then it's over. So after a while, you get that first initial pop, then it goes down, the volatility contracts, and then it gets boring, and then just a steady downtrend. So here's an example with silver, right? It goes parabolic, has that huge down candle, and then it pops, but it doesn't break a new high, and then it cracks again, a nice little pop, and then it was just a very stable downtrend from there forward. That's something that can happen with this MicroStrategy. So if history's any judge, it repeats itself. What happens is that you get the parabolic move, right? The crowd goes wild. We have a new world order. Then you get the first price break, right? That's the nasty pullback. Then you get a decent pop that doesn't get above the parabolic move, the parabolic high. Then it gets boring next. So here is, GameStop. Here's the parabolic move. I think GameStop might have hit 550 that day pre-market. If you guys remember back in 2021, GameStop, diamond hands, it's going to 1,000. It'll keep going if we don't sell, blah, blah, blah. So once it finally cracks, it breaks down heavy. It gets a decent bounce. And then as you can see here, the volatility contracts and it starts to go down. Steady, right? Slowly but surely. Something very similar. This is Tesla back in 2020. There is the parabolic move that Henry Ford and XYZ had a baby. It would be Elon Musk. They're going to do $1 trillion in sales. Here's the breakdown. Then you get the pop that doesn't break the high, and then down it goes, right? Very similar situation. This was Bitcoin when it first reached 20,000. It had here's the parabolic move right over here. Slight new high, not by much, and then down it goes. Let's see, we have more examples. AMC, very similar situation. Here's the parabolic move. It cracks, it gets close to the high, but then it dies, right? So with Mr., people might say, okay, what about Bitcoin breaks 100,000, right? This should continue to go higher. But I think we're at a point right now that people are starting to realize, hold on a second, the NAV is 4 times what Bitcoin actually is. So if they have $100 in Bitcoin, the stock is trading like if they have $400 worth of Bitcoin. And I think people, once they realize that, they're going to stay away from it, especially when you can actually buy. Now you have some Bitcoin ETFs like, let me see if I get this correct, SBIT, which this is the ultra short. They have one that's 2 times IBIT, that's 1 time, but there's one that's 2 times. So the point is, I think people are going to come to the realization that this is too risky, because now they realize that the NAV is 4 times what they have. And again, if you look at GBTC, Something very similar happened right over here on this move where it went from having a tremendous premium to having no premium whatsoever. So again, with Mr., I think if you're looking to short this, right, this was the money day, which was yesterday. I think it can bounce here a little bit. It bounced today. You got to pick your spots. But I highly doubt, regardless if Bitcoin breaks 100,000 or not, I highly doubt that this thing is going to break this high here of 543, 548. I just doubt it. But I could be wrong. But the point is, the video is just for reference for the future. So that way, when this happens again, which it will, I can go back to it. And if you go to my Twitter, you'll see all of it, right? Silver, real time, beyond real time, Tesla real time, and there were a few others real time. That again, the madness of the crowd, the delusions that happens when these things go parabolic, it's just that doesn't change. It hasn't changed. Even with all the algorithms, that element of emotion has not changed. Now, whether or not it's going to affect the market, that's a different story, because in my opinion, when you have stocks go parabolic, that's a form of sentiment, right? It's no different than when you have all the little shit stocks, right, that make no money. You know, the Long Island iced teas of the world that go from being a Long Island iced tea company to being a Bitcoin play to the Chinese play, and they go up 300%. It's no different here. When you see these parabolic moves, I think that's a form of sentiment. I don't know if it's going to have the same effect that Tesla did, BYND did, TLRY did, that they pretty much, the minute they went parabolic, the S&P peaked and had a tremendous pullback of roughly 10 to 15%. I'm not sure it's going to happen now, only because the IWM, the small caps, have been trading sideways for 5 years, right? And a bulk of the move over the last couple of years has been in the FANG names. Those stocks, those select few stocks, in my opinion, have driven the S&P 500 higher while masking a lot of weakness underneath the surface. So I think that I don't think Mr. is going to affect the market, specifically the small caps. I think this breakout here could be real, right? We have to assume that it's real. And I think that Mr. might affect the bigger cap companies, the FANG names, but not the market overall. All right. So again, this video is just for future reference. We'll play this back a few years from now when something else like a MicroStrategy that has a huge market cap goes parabolic. It might be an AI company. Who knows? All right. So trade them well and be well.